The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber parted with a deep rumble that vibrated through the floor. Ambassador James Walker took a steadying breath as he stepped forward. The chamber stretched before him like a vast arena, its ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Thousands of alien representatives watched from tiered seating that wrapped around the circular room. Some floated in anti-gravity pods. Others sat on specialized platforms designed for their unique physiologies. The air smelled strange, a mixture of different atmospheres carefully balanced to accommodate all life forms. Walker forced himself to walk at a measured pace, though his heart hammered against his ribs. He was the first human to stand before the council, representing not just Earth but all of humanity. Behind him followed his small team, Dr. Olivia Reed, xenobiologist, Major Tom Foster, security, and Raj Patel, cultural translator. Approach the center platform. Earth representative, boomed a voice from above, translated simultaneously through the neural implant at the base of Walker's skull. The central platform glowed with soft blue light as Walker stepped onto it. He felt suddenly exposed as hovering camera drones circled him, projecting his image onto massive screens around the chamber. This council recognizes the representative of species designation 7429C, known as humans from the planet Earth, announced the Supreme Arbiter, a towering figure with iridescent skin that shifted colors as it spoke. Its multiple eyes blinked in different patterns across a face that resembled polished obsidian. Walker cleared his throat. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I bring greetings from Earth and gratitude for this historic opportunity to— The council does not require pleasantries, interrupted the Arbiter, its skin flashing deep red. You have petitioned for membership in the Galactic Alliance. This is unprecedented for a species that has achieved only limited interstellar travel capabilities. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Walker maintained his composure despite the dismissive tone. With respect, Supreme Arbiter, humanity's technological progress has accelerated dramatically since our discovery of the quantum slip drive. While we may be new to the galactic community, we believe we have much to offer in partnership. A harsh clicking laugh came from one of the elevated pods. Inside was a creature resembling a mantis, its exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. The human speaks of partnership, the alien said, mandibles moving rapidly. Yet their history is dominated by warfare, environmental destruction, and factional conflict. The Zeth Collective questions whether such a species is ready for the responsibilities of council membership. Walker had been prepared for this. The briefings on Earth had warned that humanity's violent history would be used against them. Counselor, the Zeth Collective's own history includes the mineral wars of the Cygnus sector, Walker replied calmly, drawing on the intelligence Earth had gathered through secret trade with fringe species. All civilizations have periods of conflict during their development. Humanity has learned from its mistakes. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. The Zeth representative's antennae went rigid with surprise. How does the human possess knowledge of the mineral wars? Demanded another council member, a gelatinous being that pulsed with bioluminescent light. That information is restricted from non-member species. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Earth may be new to interstellar politics, but we understand the value of information. We've been listening and learning since we first detected your communications 50 years ago. The Supreme Arbiter's color shifted to a deep purple. You intercepted council transmissions before official first contact? This is a serious violation of Protocol 7B. Not intercepted, Walker corrected. Merely received what was broadcast across open channels. Your encryption was quite good. But human quantum computing made interesting progress during our isolation. A low buzz of conversation swept through the chamber as the council members conferred with each other. Walker could see a mixture of outrage and grudging respect on alien faces. Major Foster leaned close to Walker. They're rattled. Good job. The Supreme Arbiter raised all four of its upper limbs, calling for silence. The human delegation will wait while the council discusses this unexpected development. As the council members began intense discussions, Walker turned to his team. Phase 1 complete, he whispered. They're off balance, Olivia nodded. Remember, we need to seem confident but not arrogant. The Procyon reports indicated the council respects strength, but punishes perceived aggression. Something's not right, Raj said suddenly, eyes focused on his handheld scanner. I'm detecting unusual energy patterns around the chamber perimeter. Some kind of containment field is activating. Walker felt a chill run down his spine. That wasn't in the briefing materials. Because it's never been used during an introduction ceremony, Major Foster replied grimly, hand moving subtly toward his concealed weapon. This is a quarantine procedure. The Supreme Arbiter's voice cut through their hushed conversation. Delegation from Earth, the Council has reached a preliminary decision. Walker turned back to face the Arbiter, whose skin now glowed an ominous deep blue. Humanity's unauthorized access of Council information represents a significant security breach. Furthermore, our preliminary assessment suggests your species developed quantum slip technology far sooner than should have been possible, given your civilization's development timeline. We're quick learners, Walker said, fighting to keep his voice steady. Too quick, perhaps, said another council member, a crystalline entity that refracted light as it moved. The Oversight Committee has submitted evidence suggesting human quantum development was accelerated through unauthorized access to restricted technologies. Walker felt the trap closing around them. This was not how the meeting was supposed to go. Earth's intelligence had suggested the Council would be cautious but receptive. Supreme Arbiter, these accusations are unfounded, Walker protested. Humanity developed the slip drive independently through theoretical work on nine-dimensional folding, a concept not discovered by most species until they've been spacefaring. For at least 2 centuries, the Arbiter countered. Your development path is statistically anomalous to a degree that suggests outside interference. The energy field around the platform intensified. Walker could feel the hair on his arms standing up. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. We came in peace as invited representatives. You came under false pretenses, the Arbiter stated. This council must determine if humanity represents a threat to galactic stability. Until such determination is made, your delegation will be detained for further questioning. Major Foster moved closer to Walker. Sir, we need to enact Protocol Omega now. Walker hesitated. Protocol Omega was their last resort. A desperate measure if diplomatic efforts collapsed completely. Using it would change everything. Ambassador, Olivia whispered urgently. The field is scanning our neural patterns. They're trying to extract information directly from our implants. Walker made his decision. He straightened his shoulders and addressed the council with a voice that now carried absolute authority. Supreme Arbiter, members of the council, I must inform you that detaining this delegation violates not only diplomatic norms but triggers automatic countermeasures. Countermeasures? The Arbiter's skin flickered with confusion. Your planet has no means to threaten this council. Walker reached into his pocket and withdrew a small metallic disc. This is a quantum entanglement communicator. It maintains instantaneous contact with Earth regardless of distance or barriers. The moment it detects our neural patterns under duress, it activates. The human bluffs, scoffed the Zeth representative. I'm afraid not, Walker replied, his voice deadly calm. When I said humans had been listening for 50 years, I didn't mention what else we've been doing. Learning, preparing, placing assets throughout council space. A new voice joined the conversation. One from the upper tier of the council where the eldest and most powerful members sat. This being appeared as a column of swirling mist contained within a transparent shell. The human speaks the truth, it said, its voice carrying the weight of centuries. My intelligence services have detected numerous anomalies across council systems in recent decades. Small infiltrations, observational posts, dormant programs within our networks. The chamber erupted in alarmed conversations. The Supreme Arbiter's skin turned almost black with shock. What is the meaning of this? It demanded of Walker. Is this a confession of espionage? Of preemptive acts of war? Walker held the Arbiter's gaze steadily. It is neither. It is insurance. Humanity remembers its history. We've seen what happens when technologically advanced societies encounter less developed ones. We weren't going to let that happen to us. He held up the communicator again. This device is currently transmitting everything occurring here. If we are detained, harmed, or if this signal terminates, a carefully designed response will automatically activate. You threaten the council? The Arbiter's voice rose in outrage. I inform the council, Walker corrected. Earth wishes for peaceful membership, mutually beneficial exchange, and cooperation. But we will not be subjugated, experimented on, or dismissed as primitive. The choice of how we proceed from this moment belongs to this council. but humanity is prepared for either path. The ancient Misty Bee, the execution chamber gleamed with sterile white light. Ambassador Daniel Hayes stood with his back straight and chin high, refusing to show fear despite the cold weight of the restraints around his wrists. 3 days had passed since the disastrous first contact meeting. 3 days of accusations, interrogations, and finally, a mockery of a trial that had ended with a unanimous verdict: death for crimes against galactic security. Ambassador Hayes of Earth, intoned the Supreme Judge, a massive arachnoid creature whose 8 eyes glowed with cold blue light. You have been found guilty of espionage, unauthorized technological advancement, and threatening the Galactic Council with acts of terrorism. The sentence is immediate execution. Hayes smiled thinly. You call it terrorism. We call it self-preservation. The chamber was smaller than the Grand Council Hall, designed for efficiency rather than ceremony. Only 12 council representatives were present, one from each of the ruling species. They watched from behind transparent barriers, safe from any last desperate act the human might attempt. Your species was given every opportunity to join our civilization peacefully, said the Vexurian delegate, her translucent tentacles twisting with agitation. Instead, you planted dormant weapons throughout our territories. You stole our technology. You threatened this council with destruction if your demands weren't met. We asked for equal treatment, Hayes replied calmly, for recognition as sovereign beings, not as subjects to be studied and controlled. Your response was to imprison our delegation and sentence me to death as an example. Is this your definition of peace? The Krith representative, a being composed of crystalline rods arranged in a roughly humanoid shape, made a sound like shattering glass. The human continues to display the arrogance that makes their kind so dangerous. Let us proceed with the sentence. 2 robotic attendants approached Hayes. One held a device shaped like a silver crown. The neural disruptor is humane, explained the Supreme Judge. Your consciousness will simply cease. No pain, no suffering. Hayes looked directly into the judge's multiple eyes. Before you proceed, I'm obligated to deliver a final message from Earth. The council members exchanged glances. The Supreme Judge hesitated, then nodded. Speak your message. Hayes took a deep breath. 72 hours ago, when you violated diplomatic immunity and detained our delegation, a quantum signal was sent to Earth. Following your show trial yesterday, our government sent a response which I am authorized to deliver verbatim. He straightened to his full height, speaking with formal precision, to the Galactic Council from the United Earth Government. The execution of Ambassador Hayes will be considered an act of war against humanity. The moment his neural patterns cease, the extermination protocol will automatically activate. You have condemned one human. We will condemn worlds. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. The Supreme Judge's eyes dimmed briefly in what Hayes recognized as the alien equivalent of blinking in surprise. This is your final attempt at manipulation, said the Vexurian, though uncertainty tinged her translated voice. Earth has no capacity to threaten even a single council world, let alone multiple planets. Hayes maintained his calm demeanor. When you detained us, you confiscated our obvious technology, but missed the quantum-entangled particles embedded in our very cells. Every diplomat from Earth carries them. They link directly to automated defense systems that need no human control to function. He nodded toward the neural disruptor. The moment that device stops my brain activity, those particles will register the change and transmit the execution order. Impossible, declared the Krith representative. No species at your development level could manage such technology. And yet here I stand, condemned for developing technology beyond what you believe we should possess, Hayes countered. Your arrogance blinds you. While the Council has grown complacent over millennia of unchallenged rule, humanity has developed in isolation, driven by the unique pressures of our world and our history. The Supreme Judge raised a limb. What precisely is this extermination protocol you claim will activate? Hayes looked at each council member in turn. During the 50 years we monitored your communications before official first contact, we identified your weaknesses, your critical infrastructure, your defense systems, your biological vulnerabilities. His voice remained steady, almost conversational. The nanite weapons currently dormant in the atmospheric processors of 18 council homeworlds don't discriminate between civilians and leadership. They simply execute their programming upon activation. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members shouted questions and threats while security officers rushed to surround Hayes. The Supreme Judge slammed a specialized limb against the floor, the impact restoring silence. You claim your peaceful species has already deployed weapons of mass destruction against our worlds? This only confirms the Council's judgment of humanity as a threat. We deployed insurance, Hayes corrected. Deterrence to ensure fair treatment. In the archives of every Council species, there are records of primitive civilizations that were subjugated, experimented upon, or exploited when they first encountered the galactic community. Humanity studied those records very carefully. The Vexurian's tentacles had gone still, a sign of extreme distress in her species. You would sacrifice billions of innocent lives for one human? Would you sacrifice billions of humans for your pride? Hayes countered. Because that's what this execution represents. Not justice, but the Council's refusal to acknowledge humanity as equals. The Supreme Judge conferred quickly with the other Council members, their urgent communications inaudible to Hayes. After several tense minutes, the judge addressed Hayes again. These claims must be verified. Your execution will be temporarily stayed while we investigate these alleged weapons. Hayes shook his head. The weapons exist and they will activate upon my death whether you believe in them or not. Your only choice now is to release me and begin genuine diplomatic negotiations with Earth. The Council does not respond to threats, the judge stated firmly. Then the Council will witness consequences, Hayes replied. I have one last piece of information to share. The deadline for my safe return to Earth passed 20 minutes ago. At this moment, secondary protocols are already activating. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Red emergency lights pulsed along the walls. A panicked aide rushed in, whispering urgently to the Supreme Judge. What have you done? Demanded the judge, its voice distorted with fury. I've done nothing. Earth, on the other hand, has just demonstrated a fraction of its capabilities, Hayes explained. According to my internal chronometer, atmospheric processors on 3 uninhabited moons in the Proxima system have just been neutralized. A small-scale demonstration that harms no sentient life, but proves our claims are not empty threats. The Krith representative's crystalline body vibrated with rage. You said the weapons would only activate upon your death. The primary weapons, yes, but Earth has many options and my government made it clear what would happen if I wasn't returned by the deadline. Hayes allowed himself a small smile. The next demonstration will not target uninhabited moons. The chamber fell silent except for the continuing alarms. The Council members looked at each other, their species-specific expressions of fear transcending the barriers of biology. What does Earth want? The Supreme Judge finally asked, all pretense of authority gone from its voice. What we have always wanted, Hayes answered. Recognition as sovereign equals, a fair agreement for cultural and technological exchange, and assurance that no human will ever again be treated as you have treated me. The Supreme Judge conferred with the Council members once more before turning back to Hayes. The restraints will be removed. A secure communication channel to Earth will be established. Negotiations will begin immediately. As the robotic attendants moved to free him, Hayes spoke one last time to the assembled Council. A word of advice for our future interactions. Humanity has survived on a world that tried to kill us since we first evolved. We've endured ice ages, pandemics, and our own self-destructive tendencies. We've rebuilt civilizations from ashes multiple times. When you threatened one of us with death, you discovered what that history has taught us. Humans don't respond well to threats. Once freed, Hayes straightened his disheveled diplomatic uniform and faced the Supreme Judge with newfound authority. Now shall we begin genuine negotiations? Earth is listening and the clock is still ticking. The chamber that had moments ago been his execution room transformed instantly into an emergency diplomatic summit. Council members who had voted for his death now competed to show reasonableness. Guards who had been prepared to witness his final moments now stood at attention, treating him with careful respect. In a nearby monitoring room, Colonel Marcus Drake watched the proceedings with grim satisfaction. As head of Earth's Special Diplomatic Security Division, he had personally overseen the installation of the quantum communicators in all Earth diplomats. Status report, he demanded of his team. The demonstration in the Proxima system went precisely as planned. Sir, reported Lieutenant Kira Chen. Minimal environmental damage but maximum visibility. Council sensors detected everything we wanted them to see. And our actual assets? Untoga. The vast council chamber hummed with tension as Ambassador Michael Reynolds approached the central speaking platform. Unlike previous human representatives who had stood before this body, Reynolds walked with confidence rather than caution. The execution of Earth's previous envoy had changed everything. Above him, thousands of alien delegates watched from their assigned sectors. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a perfect sphere with the speaking platform suspended at its exact center, allowing every delegate equal visual access regardless of their position. The walls rippled with colors that indicated the emotional atmosphere of the gathering, currently a deep purple of anxiety mixed with flashes of red anger. Reynolds wore the new uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, midnight blue with silver trim and a subtle but unmistakable insignia on the collar, a stylized planet with a sword behind it. The message was clear to anyone who understood human symbolism. Earth came in peace but stood ready for war. The Galactic Council recognizes Ambassador Reynolds of Earth, announced the Grand Speaker, a tall, willowy being whose translucent skin revealed pulsing organs beneath. You may address the assembly. Reynolds took a moment to survey the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from the 7 most powerful species. His neural implant identified each one, feeding him critical information about their biologies, psychologies, and cultural taboos. Esteemed members of the Council, he began, his voice firm and measured. 1 standard galactic year has passed since the unjust execution of Ambassador Hayes. 1 year since Earth activated the first phase of the Extermination Protocol. 1 year since this council learned that humanity will not be subjugated. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The emotional colors on the walls intensified to deep crimson. I come today not to reopen old wounds, Reynolds continued, but to formalize Earth's new relationship with this body. The preliminary agreements negotiated, under duress, must now evolve into a sustainable framework for coexistence. The Grand Speaker's skin rippled with pale blue patterns, a sign of carefully controlled anger. Earth's preliminary agreements were extracted through threats of mass destruction. Many council members consider them void under galactic law. Reynolds smiled thinly, and yet those agreements have been honored by both sides for a full cycle. No council ships have entered Earth's sovereign space. No human technologies have been restricted. Trade has begun on terms of equality rather than exploitation. He turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. As for the means by which these agreements were secured, I remind the Council that it was not Earth that initiated hostilities. It was not Earth that violated diplomatic immunity. It was not Earth that conducted a show trial and execution. The representative from the Krith oligarchy, a crystalline entity that had voted for Hayes's execution, rose from its delegation. The human speaks of peace while Earth's weapons remain embedded in our worlds. How can genuine relations exist under such threat? An excellent question, Reynolds replied smoothly. How indeed can relations exist when one party holds overwhelming power over another? This was precisely Earth's concern when we first contacted the Council. A body that controlled the fates of thousands of worlds and showed little regard for newcomers, the Grand Speakers. Translator struggled to maintain the diplomatic tones as its agitation grew. Ambassador Reynolds, if Earth truly desires normalized relations, the Council requires deactivation and removal of all weapons deployed in Council space. This is non-negotiable. Reynolds nodded as if considering the demand. Earth is prepared to deactivate most of our security measures as relations stabilize. However, complete removal is impossible for a simple reason. Many of these systems no longer exist as you imagine them. A confused murmur swept through the chamber. Explain, demanded the Grand Speaker. Reynolds touched a control on his wrist, activating a holographic display that expanded above the platform. It showed microscopic machines in various stages of transformation. The nanites deployed throughout Council space were designed with adaptive capabilities. Over the past year, most have evolved beyond their original programming. They've integrated with local systems, merged with indigenous microorganisms, and repurposed themselves according to Earth's long-term security doctrine. He gestured to the display, showing the transformation process. They're no longer weapons in the traditional sense. They've become something more sophisticated, an immune system, one that monitors for threats to Earth while remaining dormant under normal conditions. The Marrakesh delegate, a being composed of swirling gases contained within a pressure suit, moved its speaking apparatus forward. "This is unprecedented. You claim these weapons have become autonomous?" "Semi-autonomous," Reynolds corrected. "They follow core directives from Earth but adapt their methods independently. Think of them as antibodies rather than bullets. They react only to specific threats." The chamber erupted in alarmed conversations. The Grand Speaker called for order, the sound reverberating through the spherical space. "This council cannot accept autonomous weapons beyond anyone's control, operating within our territories," the Grand Speaker declared once silence had returned. "It violates the most fundamental principles of galactic security." Reynolds raised an eyebrow. "Does it? My briefings indicate that at least 3 council species deploy similar technologies within their defense networks. The difference is merely one of scale and ambition." He turned to face the delegates from those species directly. The Valoran representative's membrane-covered eyes widened in surprise at being singled out. "Earth has studied the council thoroughly," Reynolds continued. "We know which species possess planet-killer technologies. We know which have conducted genocide in their imperial expansions. We know which maintain slave populations under euphemistic designations like protectorate species or evolutionary-guided development. The emotional indicators on the chamber walls flashed between deep red and anxious yellow as Reynolds systematically exposed secrets many council members believed were well hidden. "Ambassador," interrupted the Grand Speaker, "these accusations are inappropriate for—" "They are not accusations," Reynolds said firmly. "They are statements of fact, documented in Earth's intelligence archives. We studied the council for decades before making contact. We know exactly who and what we're dealing with." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "Earth does not judge the council's past. All civilizations have dark chapters in their histories, humanity included. But we refuse to pretend this body operates solely on principles of justice and harmony when the evidence suggests otherwise." The chamber had grown unnaturally quiet. Even species known for constant motion or sound had become still. Reynolds softened his tone slightly. "Earth desires peaceful cooperation. We bring unique perspectives and technologies that could benefit the entire galactic community. But we will not surrender our security or sovereignty to do so." The Grand Speaker conferred briefly with other senior council members before addressing Reynolds again. "What precisely does Earth propose?" "A new framework," Reynolds replied. "One that acknowledges reality rather than clinging to outdated power structures. Earth will maintain its independent security measures, but agrees to a verification regime that confirms they target only direct threats to human interests." He touched his wrist control again, and the holographic display changed to show a complex legal document. "In return, Earth will share certain technologies that the Council has expressed interest in. Our quantum computing advances, psychological healing techniques, and sustainable terraforming methods." The Krith representative's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained outrage. "The human offers what was stolen from Council archives. Earth developed these independently," Reynolds countered smoothly, "though we were certainly inspired by concepts we observed in Council communications, much as younger Council species have always learned from their elders." He let his gaze sweep across the chamber. "The difference is that Earth refuses to spend centuries as a client state, providing resources and receiving scraps of knowledge in return. We come as equals or not at all." The Grand Speaker's skin had settled into a pattern of pale blue and green, resignation mixed with calculation. "The Council will need to deliberate on Earth's proposal." "Of course," Reynolds agreed. "Earth understands the value of careful consideration. However, I'm authorized to inform the Council that our proposal has a time limit. Earth requires a response within 30 standard days." "Or what, Ambassador?" asked the Marrakesh delegate. "More threats?" Reynolds smiled, a genuine expression that somehow contained more menace than any scowl. "Not threats, simply a statement of fact. If this Council cannot adapt to humanity's presence as equals, we will seek alternative arrangements with individual species who can." He gestured toward several delegations, mostly younger species, or those with historical grievances against the Council leadership. Earth has already received informal communications expressing interest in bilateral relationships outside Council oversight. We would prefer a comprehensive agreement, but we are prepared for selective partnerships if necessary. The implications were clear. Earth was threatening to fracture the Council's unified authority by forming alliances with disaffected members. The execution chamber gleamed with cold blue light. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood with perfect posture despite the gravitational restraints holding her in place. Her dark skin contrasted sharply with the white ceremonial uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, a uniform that would soon become her burial shroud. Around her, 7 members of the Galactic Council's inner circle watched from behind transparent barriers. Their diverse physiologies, from crystalline structures to gaseous forms contained in mechanical suits, all shared one common feature: expressions that humans would recognize as grim satisfaction. Ambassador Morgan of Earth intoned the Supreme Executor, a towering insectoid whose black carapace absorbed light. You have been found guilty of espionage, sabotage, and conspiracy against the Galactic Council. The sentence is immediate execution. Morgan's face remained impassive, betraying no fear. I maintain my diplomatic immunity and protest this illegal detention and sentencing. Immunity was revoked when evidence of your crimes was presented, replied the executor, compound eyes gleaming. The quantum virus that disabled defensive systems across 17 Council worlds originated from your neural implant. An implant that was forcibly accessed while I was unconscious, Morgan countered. My government will consider this execution an act of war. The Zoltan representative, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid force field, moved forward. Your government has already been informed of the proceedings. They were provided with irrefutable evidence of your guilt. Morgan allowed herself a small, enigmatic smile. And their response? An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. The council members exchanged glances. Earth has issued protests, admitted the executor. However, they have also acknowledged the evidence and accepted the council's jurisdiction in this matter. I see, Morgan said quietly. Then it seems I've been abandoned by my own people. The draconian delegate, a reptilian being with iridescent scales, made a sound that might have been laughter. Your tactics have failed, human. The extermination protocol that protected your predecessors has been neutralized. Our scientists identified and disabled the nanite weapons hidden throughout Council space. Earth's leverage is gone, added the Zoltan. Your species will now assume its proper place in the galactic hierarchy, under Council supervision and restricted from further technological advancement. Morgan nodded slowly, as if accepting her fate. Before you proceed with my execution, I am entitled to a final statement under Article 47 of the Council Charter. The executor's mandibles clicked in irritation. Make it brief. I wish to address 2 misunderstandings, Morgan began. First, regarding the nanite weapons you believe you've neutralized. What your scientists found and disabled were merely the first generation, the obvious ones designed to be discovered eventually. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. The executor raised a limb for silence. Second, Morgan continued, you misinterpreted Earth's response to my situation. My government didn't abandon me. They simply acknowledged that this moment was inevitable, planned for even. What nonsense is this? Demanded the Draconian. Morgan's eyes gleamed with sudden intensity. The execution of Earth's envoy isn't a failure of our strategy. It's the activation trigger. The gravitational restraints around her suddenly flickered. The chamber's lighting system pulsed erratically. What's happening? The executor turned to the security controls. The execution chamber is designed to be completely isolated from external systems, Morgan explained conversationally. No signals in or out, the perfect place for what comes next. Her restraints deactivated completely. Morgan rolled her shoulders, working out the stiffness as the council members watched in stunned silence. When Ambassador Hayes was executed 5 years ago, Earth deployed the first generation of our defensive technologies, crude but effective. When the Council threatened war 3 years later, Ambassador Reynolds revealed the second generation, more sophisticated and partially autonomous. She smiled, and this time there was nothing enigmatic about it. I represent the third generation. My neural implant doesn't just connect to external systems, it contains them. The executor slammed a specialized limb against the emergency protocols panel. Security breach. Lock down all systems. Too late, Morgan said calmly. The moment you sentenced me to death, quantum entanglement protocols activated within my neural architecture. The trigger signal doesn't need to leave this room. It's already been received across the galaxy. On the chamber's main display screen, alerts began flashing from dozens of Council worlds. Communication networks failing. Defense grids going offline. Transportation systems shutting down. What have you done? Whispered the Zoltan, its energy form flickering with distress. Created balance, Morgan replied. For decades, the Council has maintained control through technological superiority. Today, that advantage ends. She gestured toward the screen where the alerts continued to multiply. Every Council system is now experiencing cascading failures in critical infrastructure. Not destruction, simply equalization. The executor's compound eyes fixed on Morgan with murderous intensity. Our fleets will reduce Earth to ash for this attack. They won't make it out of their docking bays, Morgan countered. And even if some ships do launch, they'll find their navigation and weapon systems have been recalibrated to Council baseline standards circa 50 years ago, roughly equivalent to current Earth technology. She began walking slowly around the chamber, examining the architectural details as if she were a tourist rather than a condemned prisoner. The playing field is being leveled. From this moment forward, no species will maintain the kind of technological advantage that allows them to dominate others. This is impossible, the Draconian protested. No single system could affect the entire Council network simultaneously. You're thinking linearly, Morgan explained. Earth hasn't planted individual weapons or viruses. We've created a self-propagating intelligence that exists in the quantum substrate of the galactic communication network itself. It doesn't attack systems. It rewrites the fundamental rules by which they operate. The implications dawned on the Council members one by one. Their expressions shifted from anger to the first stirrings of genuine fear. The harmonization protocol, Morgan continued, ensures technological parity among all spacefaring species. Advanced weapons are downgraded. Faster-than-light travel is standardized. Communication systems operate at equal capacity regardless of who built them. You've destroyed 10,000 years of progress, accused the Zoltan, its energy form pulsing with rage. We've ended 10,000 years of inequality, Morgan corrected. Progress achieved through cooperation will continue. Progress hoarded for advantage will not. The executor slammed both front limbs down in fury. The Council will never accept this. The Council has no choice, Morgan replied simply. The process cannot be reversed by any current technology. In time, perhaps your best scientists might find ways to circumvent some aspects of the harmonization. But by then, the new reality will be established. She turned to face the assembled Council members directly. I suggest you contact your homeworlds. There will be considerable confusion as systems realign to their new parameters. Leadership will be needed to prevent panic. And you? Demanded the Draconian. What happens to Earth's ambassador, who has just admitted to the greatest act of sabotage in galactic history? Morgan smiled. I will return to my ship and prepare for the emergency council session that will undoubtedly be called within hours. Earth anticipates many questions about the new galactic reality. You remain under sentence of death, the executor reminded her, though with notably less conviction. A sentence you no longer have the power to enforce, Morgan replied. Your execution systems have been harmonized with all others. They now include the same ethical constraints that Earth has built into its own judicial technology, including prohibitions against political executions disguised as justice. She straightened her white uniform and moved toward the chamber's exit. The doors, which had been sealed by the most advanced security measures in the galaxy, opened at her approach. One final note, Morgan said, pausing at the threshold. Earth has no desire to rule the Council or to see it dissolved. We simply insist on true equality. The harmonization ensures that future relations will be based on mutual respect rather than technological intimidation. The Council members watched in stunned silence as she departed, their worldviews shattering around them. In the corridor outside, Morgan was met by her aide, David Chen, who had been waiting anxiously since her detention. It's done, he asked quietly as they moved quickly toward the docking bay where the Earth vessel waited. Morgan nodded. Exactly as planned. The trigger signal activated when they formally sentenced me. Harmonization is proceeding across all council systems, and your neural implant, functioning perfectly. The quantum entanglement network established links with all targeted systems before they initiated the execution proceedings. Chen shook his head in amazement. They never imagined you were the weapon. That was the point, Morgan replied. After Hayes and Reynolds, the council became expert at detecting external threats, nanites, viruses, hidden devices. They never considered that the ambassador herself might be the delivery system. The execution chamber fell silent as Ambassador Robert Keller's body slumped against the restraints. The assembled council representatives watched without emotion as medical drones confirmed what their sensors already indicated. The human envoy was dead. The sentence has been carried out, announced the High Executor, a massive arachnoid being whose voice resonated through specialized audio enhancers. Let the official record show that the representative of Earth was executed for crimes against galactic stability, as unanimously approved by the full council. The Dravid delegate, a crystalline entity that refracted light in hypnotic patterns, moved forward. What of the human claims? Their threats of retaliation? Empty words, replied the High Executor. Our intelligence division has confirmed that the previous human defensive measures, their so-called extermination protocol and harmonization protocol, have been neutralized. Earth has no remaining leverage, the gathered representatives murmured in agreement. After decades of tension and 3 previous confrontations with human ambassadors, the Council had finally regained complete control. Earth's brief period of disproportionate influence in galactic affairs was over. The human fleet remains in their home system, noted the Zeth representative, its mantis-like form shifting nervously despite the reassurances. Should we not expect some response? Their ships are being monitored, the High Executor stated confidently. Any aggressive movement will be met with overwhelming force from our combined fleets. The matter is resolved. As the Council representatives filed out of the execution chamber, none noticed the slight smile that remained frozen on Ambassador Keller's lifeless face. 12 light-years away, in a hidden facility beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, General Diana Reyes stared at the monitors displaying Keller's vital signs. All flatlined exactly 27 minutes ago. Confirmation complete, announced the AI system. Ambassador Keller's neural patterns have ceased. Identity verification at 100%. Protocol Omega is now active. Reyes closed her eyes briefly, a silent acknowledgement of Keller's sacrifice. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. Status of Operation Dead Hand? She demanded. Around her, the command center hummed with activity as Earth's military leadership monitored systems across the planet and throughout their solar system. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. They had prepared for this day for years. All systems online, reported Admiral Zhang from his station. Phase 1 commenced at termination confirmation. Council surveillance networks are experiencing total failure across all sectors. Stealth fleet? Reyes asked. Deployed and maintaining position, Zhang confirmed. All vessels report ready status. Council defense grids remain unaware of their presence. On the main strategic display, thousands of small dots appeared around major Council worlds and installations. Earth's hidden armada, vessels that had been methodically positioned over the past decade, using technology that rendered them completely invisible to standard detection methods. The Council believes they've neutralized our previous protocols, Reyes observed. Their overconfidence is exactly what we anticipated. Defense Minister Okafor, the oldest person in the room, leaned forward on his cane. They executed our ambassador believing it would finally put humans in our proper place. They never considered we might have planned for this moment. The Council has existed for 50,000 years, Reyes replied. In that time, they've developed patterns of behavior so ingrained they can't conceive of alternatives. Their response to each of our previous ambassadors followed predictable trajectories. She turned to the quantum communications specialist. Status of the Lazarus signal? Transmitting on all secured channels, the young officer reported. Confirmation received from Agent Keller. A hushed silence fell over the command center. Several officers exchanged confused glances. Did you say, Agent Keller? Admiral Zhang asked cautiously. The ambassador was executed 27 minutes ago. Reyes allowed herself a small, grim smile. Was he? The main display changed to show a new video feed. Ambassador Keller, very much alive, sat in what appeared to be a medical bay. He looked tired but alert, his eyes clear as he gazed into the camera. "General Reyes," he said, nodding respectfully. "The transfer was successful. The Council believes they've executed me and neutralized Earth's leverage. Their guard is down." Reyes nodded. "Excellent work, Agent. Status of your host?" "Stable," Keller replied. "The quantum consciousness transfer integrated perfectly with the synthetic body. Council medical scanners detected only standard human biological readings until termination." On another screen, the execution chamber feed continued to show Keller's lifeless body being removed by Council drones. Except it wasn't actually Keller. It was an advanced synthetic duplicate containing a complete quantum copy of his consciousness, programmed to terminate upon execution. The real Keller had never left Earth. "The Council is about to discover the true meaning of Earth's extermination protocol," Reyes stated. "Proceed with Phase 2. Throughout Council space, the carefully hidden Earth vessels simultaneously activated their primary systems. These weren't conventional warships. They carried no weapons, launched no attacks. Instead, they began broadcasting signals on frequencies the Council had never thought to monitor, frequencies that triggered dormant systems embedded in Council technology decades earlier. In the Council's central data hub, security algorithms suddenly recognized their own programming as foreign and began purging critical systems. On military vessels, navigation computers initiated emergency shutdowns after detecting what they interpreted as catastrophic failures. On planetary defense installations, targeting systems began identifying friendly assets as hostile. The chaos spread exponentially as each affected system triggered cascading failures in connected networks. Within minutes, the most advanced technological civilization in the galaxy found itself paralyzed by its own security protocols. "Remarkable," observed Defense Minister Okafor as reports flooded in. "Not a single conventional attack. Yet the Council's military capability has been reduced to approximately 12% of normal capacity." "That was always the plan," Reyes replied. "Earth couldn't match the Council's raw military power, so we made it irrelevant. Their technology is now fighting itself." On the strategic display, Council emergency channels lit up with distress calls and confusion. No one understood what was happening or how to stop it. The carefully ordered hierarchy of galactic civilization was dissolving into chaos. "Phase 3 is ready on your command," Admiral Zhang reported. "The transmission package has been prepared." Reyes nodded. "Send it." Across Council space, every communication device capable of receiving transmissions suddenly activated. Screens in government buildings, personal devices, public information displays, all showed the same image: Ambassador Keller, alive and well, addressing the galaxy. "People of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice calm and measured. "I am Ambassador Robert Keller of Earth. Despite what your leaders have told you, I am very much alive. The body they executed was a synthetic duplicate, containing a temporary copy of my consciousness, a copy programmed to die, so that the Council would believe they had eliminated Earth's influence." He leaned forward slightly, his expression serious but not threatening. "For decades, your leaders have treated Earth as a dangerous outsider to be contained or eliminated. They executed our first ambassador, threatened our planet with destruction, and today attempted to end our independence permanently. They did this while hiding the truth from their own citizens." The feed switched to show classified Council documents, internal communications among the ruling species, secret military plans, all revealing a systematic campaign to prevent Earth from gaining equal standing in galactic affairs. "Earth does not desire war," Keller continued as the feed returned to his face. "We have never wanted to rule the Council or disrupt galactic civilization. We sought only equal treatment and the right to develop without interference. Today's events are not an attack. They are a defensive measure triggered by your leader's decision to execute Earth's representative." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "In 6 hours, all affected systems will automatically restore to normal function. No permanent damage has been done. No lives have been taken. This demonstration was designed to show that Earth cannot be eliminated without consequences, but also that we have the restraint to avoid unnecessary harm." The feed split to show the Council's emergency session, where representatives were watching Keller's broadcast with expressions ranging from shock to fury. To the Council leadership, Keller addressed them directly. "Earth proposes a reset of our relations. The synthetic duplicate you executed fulfilled the letter of your sentence. Justice, by your definition, has been served. Now we have the opportunity to begin again with mutual respect rather than domination and resistance. He outlined a series of proposals: guaranteed independence for Earth, fair trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and shared research initiatives. Your civilizations are ancient and accomplished, Keller acknowledged. Humanity is young by comparison. We recognize the value of your experience and wisdom, but youth also brings fresh perspectives and innovations that could benefit all species. A genuine partnership would serve everyone's interests better than continued conflict. In the Earth Sea,